Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington Chi Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi. He's very nervous because this cord scares him. And that's the cord for the mic, so we need it, huh, Biss? And also, we're having a lot of wind, and the sun is quite strong today, so the house is cracking, the windows are cracking, all of which scares the Corgi. Poor Tristan. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about food and why that matters, in particular regarding one of my client dogs. I had a Labrador come to me, and I see quite a few Labradors, and she's 12, and her brother, which is owned by someone, the person with her nose, recently died from cancer. So this girl comes and she's got a lump on her hind leg that a vet has said is cancer, and then she's got numerous lumps all over her body, pretty big ones, like half the size of your hand. And she's a big dog, you know, maybe 65 pounds or so. A Labrador, medium-sized Labrador, not a huge Labrador. And it turns out the person has had her on a very popular, on TV commercials, commercial dog food for her whole life. And she had tried another dog food in a bag, a Kibble, that was recommended to her, and it wasn't super expensive or one that a lot of you might have tried. So, and the dog did terrible on it. So she brought her back to this grocery store brand, Kibble. So what that's done to this dog, she's a black lab, so she's had a better chance of doing okay on that than like your yellow labs. As we've said before, in Chinese medicine, you don't want to feed a hot type of food to a hot dog. The easiest way to tell if your dog is hot or cold is by their color. All of our orange Corgis and a lot of the tricolored ones are hot dogs, meaning energetically they're hot. They also tend to like to lay in cool places. They like cold weather. They like the snow. And as a result of that, they shouldn't eat hot foods. And a hot food doesn't mean literally a warm temperature food. It means a food that is energetically warm, like chicken. Chicken is just in so many pet foods on the market. And if not chicken, chicken feathers, chicken byproducts, parts of chicken from the pet food industry. So if you've got an orange dog like a yellow lab or an orange Corgi or a golden retriever, you have to be super careful what you feed them. And the same goes for a lot of grains. They are energetically hot. They feed the fire in your hot dog, and that creates an explosion of inflammation in the dog. So luckily, this lab that came to me is a black lab, not a yellow lab. So she had a little better tolerance with eating a lifetime of chicken than some other dogs. And her mom did have her on a grain-free commercial Kibble, I think, for the last year or so, which probably really helped this dog. So when I met the dog, I immediately said, what are you feeding her? We're going to have to change the diet because we were very concerned about the cancer lump in her hind leg. And I said, you know, with food, we can change that. But since this dog's full brother had just died at the same age, the person wasn't feeling optimistic about anything helping this dog. And she's got terrible arthritis. Arthritis is another thing that you get with inflammation. So it's really important that you be aware of these things with what you're feeding your dogs. So because this dog is 12 and her brother just died, is it too late to help her? Absolutely not. Many labs I've known can go up to 16 years old. So because this dog's 12, we don't give up on her. So immediately I explained to the person about hot foods and cold foods. Cold foods, turkey's kind of neutral, but cold foods include duck, rabbit, beef, goose, all of those kinds of darker meaty things, even pork. But, and you know, you have to look at the hormones in these products. You have to try to feed organic as best you can and can afford. This is a big dog, a lab, so she can't get by with a little tiny scoop of Honest Kitchen like I give my little boy. So, I mean, ultimately she might be able to. We hope so. So what the person has done is decided that economically it was better for her to home cook for the dog, rather than try to find a better kibble or a canned food product. The person likes to cook, and when I showed her some of the recipes in my sister's book and gave her some copies of a couple important ones, like the pictures of the cancer foods that you feed your dog if they have cancer, the person took this to heart and started to creatively think of ways to cook for their dog. They had a crock pot. I think half the people in the house are not vegetarians. That's very helpful. Maybe they don't want to cook tripe because it is so smelly, but they can get by cooking some beef. So we also have in my neighborhood a place called Sutter's Meat, which raises grass-fed organic meat. And they sell bone broth, they sell organ meat, they sell leftovers for people with dogs at a reasonable price. And their meat is, unsalted, untreated. It's just pure, and we are so lucky to have them here. And they are a great company, locally owned. So this person, on the recommendation of me, which I learned from another client, started going to Sutter's to get meat for her dog and then mixing it with a lot of the vegetables my sister recommended for her particular type. I think she's eating yellow squash, broccoli, some things like that. And she loves it. The dog is devouring the food. So I send the woman home with all this information. I'm not really sure she's going to follow up on anything I've said. Of course, she's emotionally distraught, as anyone would be, to think that their dog's health has been compromised by what you've been feeding. And in fact, we're totally responsible for their welfare. So what we feed them matters a lot, just like what we feed ourselves. I don't know if people remember Super Size Me, that movie about a fellow that ate only at fast food restaurants for a month and all of the health problems he had at the end of the month. A lot of these pet food products are just like eating fast food every day. So this dog comes back to me 2.5 weeks later. I haven't seen her in all that time. And I could not believe the difference. She had lost a couple of pounds. The lumps on her body were visibly smaller and less numerous. A lot of them were lipomas. And then the cancerous lump on her back leg has gone way down in size. And the person reported that the dog has way more enthusiasm and less pain, less arthritic conditions, is able to go up and down steps, is trying to play more. And that's a huge improvement in the behavior of your dog in only 2 weeks of changing the food. So this person left my house, talked with their person that they came with, and went immediately to the meat store and bought this good organic meat and some vegetables for their dog and started to cook for her. But they did not use any more of the commercial pet food from the grocery store that they had been using. And in only 2 weeks, to me, who had not seen the dog, the difference was dramatic and remarkable. So if you think food can't help and food doesn't matter, think again, because really, this dog is going to have a lot more comfort no matter how long she lives, because her people are feeding her food that is not contributing to her inflammation anymore. And she's got symptoms of inflammation: arthritis, cancer, stiffness, dulling of the senses. All of this comes from inflammation. So it's really important that we feed our dogs food that is good for their whole body and that doesn't create inflammation. And if you have an orange dog, don't feed him chicken. And if you have a black dog, you have a lot more variety in what you can feed them. And turkey is readily available. Tristan eats a lot of turkey because I don't always have access to duck. And I'm not a meat eater, so for me to buy a duck breast and cook it for him is a little bit of complication. And I do that for him sometimes, or I ask one of my friends who loves duck to cook an extra one and bring it down for Tristan when he's making a duck meal. And he makes good duck, and he has to keep Tristan's off to the side so it doesn't get soy sauce and things on it. But food really matters. Food can make a huge difference. This Labrador seems a year younger in only 2 weeks of changing her food. And I saw her again a month after that initial visit, and she's continuing to improve. So it's really, really important what you feed your dogs. And Joyce says, I need to figure out what to feed my dogs. And for their, I can't even read what she has there because I'm so blind. I'll have to answer you online, but it is hard to know what to feed your dogs. And my sister, drjudymorgan.com, has a wealth of information on her website. On her Facebook feed, there are 350 episodes of Breakfast with Spaniels. A lot of them are about food. Also, there's a Facebook group called The Healthy Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Marita Tilley out of England posts tons of information about health for your dogs, and there's lots and lots and lots of articles there about what to feed your dogs. But it's really important to look at that from the Chinese medicine perspective in particular, because I can feed my dog, this dog, organic chicken and vegetables, and he will not do well on that. He will, and he was on a chicken-based kibble initially because that's what my other dog had eaten, and I didn't know other food at that time, and it was a really high-quality kibble. And he was a little bit nuts. He was kind of hyper all the time, hard to calm him down because his body was in a state of stress from the inflammation that was happening in him. So now he has a much better diet, and he has for, I think, I don't know, he's 8, so maybe for 5 years he's had a much better diet. And it's really important that we look at this. And a lot of these companies don't necessarily recommend feeding a raw diet to puppies. So you have to look at maybe a dehydrated raw for a puppy to help them grow up and be healthy and strong. And if you're feeding a home-cooked diet like my client, she is also, like several of my other clients, mixing in Honest Kitchen base mix. Don't confuse it. Honest Kitchen's boxes are hard to figure out, but there's one called the base mix. And that is just sort of like a bunch of supplements and a couple of tasty things mixed together and powdered. And you just sprinkle that with your dog's home-cooked meal. It is not a full meal by itself. A few people that I've worked with have ended up buying that thinking that that was Honest Kitchen food, and it's not. It's a mix made specifically for people that are home cooking for their dogs. So if you're using that base mix, make sure you're not giving that as your only food, and look at some of their other products. They now have a duck one, which I have to get because this boy needs some ducks. He says, I like to eat them. So anyway, it's really important what you feed your dog, and if a change in diet as dramatic as going from a commercial kibble from the supermarket to a home-cooked meal can make a difference in 2 weeks. Imagine the vibrancy in a year of feeding your dog much better home-cooked food or raw or dehydrated raw. And any step away from kibble is going to help your dog. Kibble, just by its very nature, feeds fire in these orange dogs like golden retrievers and corgis and yellow labs and Pomeranians that are orange and, pugs. So the kibble is also loaded with carbohydrates. They can't make kibble stick together if they don't have a carbohydrate factor in the kibble. The process of extruding it, trying to make it into kibble and squeeze it out through a little tube requires that they have a lot of ingredients that aren't really good for dogs. So feeding kibble is sometimes an option if it's a certain type of kibble and only a portion of your dog's meal. But if you've got a small dog, I say you can't afford to not feed your dog kibble because small dogs live a long time. And you want to make sure that they have the best diet they can so that they enjoy their old age, and you do have them for a long time. So avoiding kibble is really important and a little bit controversial. And there's tons of information on my sister's pages and website about why kibble is bad, with lots of scientific details about the kibble that I'm not going to go into today, because I just really wanted to tell you how great it was in 2 weeks of a home-cooked diet to see the change in this dog. All of the lumps are shrinking, even the cancerous lump. She's not on a ketogenic diet for her cancer, and we might look at that down the line. Right now, we're just getting adjusted to the whole process of cooking for your dog. And like I said yesterday, you can start that by just adding something good into your dog's meal. This kid's been having some Brussels sprouts. This morning he had an egg. He's been having some yellow squash, green beans, red pepper. I'm going to buy him an orange pepper and give him a little bit of that too in a couple of days. So thanks for joining us today. Good luck with feeding your dogs. There's lots of resources to look at better ways to feed your dog online. And like I said, you can go to the Healthy Cavalier King Charles Spaniel on Facebook. There are tons of articles that she posts about better food. So really look at your dog's diet and make some choices that might be better for your dog than what has been where you've been working. We got Chewy.com. They'll send you stuff if it's convenience at the grocery store. And Chewy is changing, and there's some issues with that, but you can get food sent to you. And there's more and more kind of small boutique pet stores springing up, which have high quality food as well. So thanks for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow morning at 9:30. Sorry we were a little late today. I am just having a hard time recovering from this illness. I'm just so exhausted and sleepless. Danny, I hope your snow is melting. They showed a map of the middle part of the country with a time-elapsed satellite photography of the snow melting yesterday. I mean, it went away in half a state over the course of 9 to 5. It's remarkable. So everybody have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Look at what you're feeding your dog. Lots of information out there to make some better choices. Have a great day.